Where do the people we get our parts from get our parts from? Is there anywhere we can go when our regular places don't have the stuff we need? What's the inside baseball game going on between our distributors and the folks who make the actual product? And are there any products that are always harder to get? These are just a few of the things we'll be talking about today with Tyler J. Thomas, Tim Coleman, and guest host PJ Slauson. I'm Jeff Moss, and this is the Three Tumblers. Over the past few years, pretty much everyone in every industry has had to struggle with getting parts. Like a lot of things with locksmithing, we've had to get creative when it comes to finding the stuff we need to get our jobs done. Like we've talked about before, there are different ways to get what we need. So last week, I had a customer who brought a part in. It was a Southco lock. They make hundreds of different parts for RVs and display cabinets. It's not truly a locksmithing item that you're going to find through the locksmith wholesalers. So I found a supplier that had the part after I quoted the customer, found that they had a $50 minimum. Well, I only wanted to order one. So I was able to find two of them, brand new old stock on eBay for the same price that would have cost me one from the wholesaler with shipping. And I would have had to spend the minimum of $50. So that was a win right there, and I have an extra one, so hopefully it'll work, and I can sell them the second one and not have to place another order. When it's something special like that, yeah, you may pay more, but I found a lot of stuff on eBay, more so for my own collection, not new stuff to sell a customer, but there is old stock out there and weird replacement parts and places that go out of business and liquidators put stuff up for sale. And I don't really like it, but sometimes you can find things on Amazon. Harley Davidson motorcycle saddlebag locks. You can get stuff very cheap that if you went to the Harley dealer could cost you 50 or $60 if they even had it. And there is some aftermarket stuff out there that will do. I certainly, don't recommend it for car keys, and people bring stuff in that, we all know about that. And then I guess Tyler, PJ, when you were working for your dad, have you had to source things from odd places like that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, so I mean, the funny part for me is I actually got my start selling my dad's excess oddball items on eBay. And so I found, that was 2004, 2005-ish. And I think it's a great place to find those items, right? A lot of times you're working on maybe like some sort of boat ignition, and you get a little too rough and the ignition gets a little messed up because it's plastic. A good, easy way to find a replacement, is a place like eBay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we have, I'm not going to say a great demand, but we have regular, occasional demand for child safety locks. Something that can, stop a child from pulling the door open. In other words, they're just tall enough, old enough, whatever, to be able to use the thumb turn on the inside of the door, and before they know it, they're out, outside. Especially in special needs children cases. And some of the best child safety locks that we've found are actually on eBay, or not eBay, but Amazon. And so we source those parts from Amazon and then, sell them and install them. And that seems to work pretty good. Another point that I'll make is also Easy Keys. They are actually based in Charlotte, and I know they've got an online business, but we have an account with them. We've used them once in the couple years that I've been doing this now for the shop I'm at, but when we did use them, it was pretty much a convenience factor. but we were able to show them a picture of what we needed. It was for a overhead cabinet, filing cabinet type lock, and we showed them what we needed, and they had it ready to go. So, I mean, some places that are specialty places like that are awesome to go to.
We use them once a week, it seems like. There's still, even with the newest generic code, there's stuff that's not in the keys that are not in the system, or when we need replacement plugs for things like that. They've been a very good source. I've only stumped them a couple times. Another good one is All About Doors for like patio door hardware. And there's others out there. Tyler, I guess now that since you're pretty nuanced in what you do, you're probably not having to search for things. But I know, like, you have a place that sells like security fasteners and stuff locally, and you guys have that good hardware store for when I'm sure there's things that you find that you need when you're in the middle of something.
Yeah, and also other locksmiths like our buddy in California, Doug Schneider. He'll reach out to me, I'll reach out to him, vice versa. Just I would say, as far as other alternative sources, locksmiths that are, to borrow your word, nuanced in a special field, that have that sort of inventory on hand because they deal with it regularly, that can't be beat.
Well, you took my next point, but yes, that is a great way. You post on ClearStar, do you have something? Yeah, I bought 50 of them 20 years ago. I'll send you 5 and sell you what you need. Another thing, I've brought in blanks from my own collection inventory. Somebody needs 1 key, and we, would have to order 10, and it's sitting collecting dust. It's not a big deal. Or if I know of a place that has something, there's a local supplier that specializes in like step van parts. We cut keys for them. So and somebody has like a school bus, passenger bus, and they need a handle, drove over there, picked it up, and got what they needed, and they're very happy. Had it in a day. Could they have ordered it from them? Yeah, but we also installed it for them, and you don't want to necessarily, give away your sources. There are specialty we're just lucky that this company is down the street from us, and they stock all the stuff, and we help them, and they help us. So I don't see so much other locksmiths locally, but guys online, I remember working, like you said, you damaged something. I had a really old GM ignition or door lock or something that I screwed up, and I was able to find a new old stock 60-year-old part on eBay. And, if it wasn't for that, would have been, and I forget what the issue was, but would have been bad.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to say, as far as other locksmiths, Tyler helped us out just a few months ago. And being able to reach out to other locksmiths and say, hey, do you have some of these? Because my distributor is saying it's going to be anywhere between 3 and 8 months before you're going to get it from us. That really, really does help out. And also, to speak to your point about personal collections, I'm not quite at the point where I'm carrying around my safe drilling rig and stuff like that. I don't have any of the really, really cool safe tools yet, but I have amassed a rather decent collection of electronic safe keypads. And there have been a couple times when I've grabbed a keypad from home and taken it with me for a job and been able to open a safe. As soon as I get it open, of course, I'm going to replace everything that's, on that customer safe. But being able to have that here and just grab it in the morning, when I'm leaving for work, really, really helps out sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I carry extra stuff with me. Just, my coworker needed some Cat 5 plugs. Yeah, I've got it's my own stuff. Here's a handful of them. I don't care about, not going to next time I go buy something, I'll give her the receipt if I really need it. I'm replenishing from my own inventory. It just makes it easier. They don't have to go run over to Home Depot and wait in line and whatever, to get the job done, or screws or anchors or things like that. But not so much, true actual inventory, because people pretty much want stuff that's brand new. At least I would. Up next, PJ is going to give us a view on the inside baseball between people who make key blanks and people who sell them.
All right, thanks, Jeff. So when it comes to key blanks, right, almost all of them we know are made out of brass. But there are also so many other parts that are made out of brass, whether it's plumbing, ammo, electrical parts, and so many other items. Key blank manufacturers over the past few years have had an incredibly difficult time getting the brass strips and coils in order to make the keys. Now, when they can get the coils and the strips, a lot of times they aren't being able to determine what size they get. And so what happens is that if they get strips for, let's say, the size of keys of like a Kwikset or Schlage, and they need to make a bunch of M1 master padlock keys, the cost per key is rising dramatically from that. And so at that point, a lot of tough decisions need to be made. Do we keep making the most popular, or do we shift and make some of the not so popular but decent volume like M1 keys or Y11 and that sort of thing?
Well, let me ask you this. See, I don't know how it would be from a manufacturer. When the manufacturers are creating keys out of these batches, do you have any idea in terms of volume per batch? I mean, are they making 100,000 keys and then sitting and waiting to get more? Is it just take what you can get, 5,000, whatever? Do you know anything about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's essentially done off of a volume. I know the main, there's essentially two main key blank manufacturers in the world, right? And so they have dedicated machines where they're running Kwikset and Schlage type keys all day, every day. Is where the problem really starts to unfold is so we all know that you're going to sell Kwikset and Schlage keys no matter what. And so do you keep those presses rolling and do you keep making those keys, or at some point do you take some of that brass stock and start making Y11 keys, even though it's not the right size? It's going to cost more. They might run 2, 3, 4. I can't remember the exact minimum quantity for the stock keys. I believe it's around 5,000 pieces in annual volume that the manufacturer needs to be able to sell. So it's a lot smaller than you might think as far as that goes, but it's setting it up and doing it all. And to complicate the matters a little more is what happened, okay? And I think everyone can relate to this to some degree. And so as we know, everything kind of shut down, and then all the materials got really hard to get. Well, when things get moving again, let's say with a supplier that you have, maybe you have 30-day terms, 60-day, 90-day, whatever it might be. Well, you call them up to place an order and they're like, hey, not only did the price go up, but we need payment up front because we have a line of people sitting here that are willing to take your supply, pay us more, and pay us right now, even though you're not going to actually get the material for a couple months.
When you say they, do you mean other distributors?
I mean, on other manufacturers. Right. And so when the other manufacturers, when they're doing this on all sorts of industries, is what happens. And so I guess the point of talking about this is that when it starts to funnel down to us and our industry, it's a relatively small industry, the aftermarket key blank supply. And so is what happens is if you're a manufacturer, what are you wanting to put out there? Are you wanting to, restock the 10,000, maybe 1611 trailer hitch keys that you sell throughout the year, hoping someone's going to buy it when you just got done having to prepay to get that inventory of just the base brass into make? Or are you wanting to sell, the high movers to get your money back as soon as possible?
So it sounds like it's not so much that they're having problems sourcing it, it's that they're having to compete for that finite material available on the market.
Yes, yep, yeah, exactly. The material that becomes available, everyone's competing for. And if we were to put it in your shoes, right, and let's say someone, like, there was a shortage of master padlocks, and someone showed up and they're like, hey, we'll give you double the money for those padlocks you have there. You kind of start getting put in a weird position, so to speak.
So how does, like for instance, we buy Medico and Schlage factory direct on some of our keys. Like Medico, obviously we get factory direct. Schlage Primus, we get factory direct. Do the factories, in the global scheme of things, do they have, I guess, quote unquote, priority over your OEM or beyond the OEM manufacturers? Or are they still competing for everything? Is that why my Medico keys are going to take me 3 months to get blanks for?
Yeah. So for the most part, I guess it kind of brings me to my second point here, right? Which is, like, when we're in the aftermarket world, right? All of us, I believe, here service the aftermarket in some form or another. Key blank manufacturers, because there's only a few of them out there, right? Like, they have agreements with the OEM company, include in that the Medicos and, of course, Schlage and those sorts of companies. And they have, written agreements on what the price is, how many they're going to supply, and all of that. And so when material gets more scarce or harder to get, and they have to, who are they going to first make key blanks for? Are they going to make them for the OEM manufacturers that they have, agreements, written agreements with? Or are they going to just make a bunch of Y11s and pop them on the shelf and hope that distributors like myself are going to buy them? Now, but to Tim, I guess to answer your point, I think is what happens is that, like with the Medicos and that sort of thing, they at some point you have to get in line, right? And especially, I know nickel silver in particular, like what Medico keys are made out of, has been incredibly difficult for anyone to get. And so I think that's kind of where that extended lead time goes. But who are you gonna, I guess the point is, since we're the aftermarket, we're really the after part of that. And so we put orders in, we hope to get those keys as soon as possible. But at the end of the day, the OEM manufacturers are going to take precedent.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, we're going through a I guess sort of a reorganizing of our stock in our shop. And my boss and I, we were moving stuff. We're creating new areas in the limited space that we have. Anyway, we were going through key blanks that we have, and we found like some oddball Wisers, some oddball Westlock. I mean, we don't even rekey Westlock cylinders anymore, just because they're so old most of the time when we encountered them. And we'll tell our customers, say, look, if we take that apart, something somewhere is going to break, and we've not been able to get parts for forever. You just need to replace it. So why should we stock Westlock keys? And I guess where I'm going with this is, he's my boss has acquired all these key blanks through buyouts of other locksmiths, selling off their stock, and it is just something, yeah, we sell Y11s every day, but we don't sell as many Y11s as we do SC1 and KW1. So I guess it makes sense to me that manufacturers of key blanks probably aren't going to run, as many oddball keys as they are Schlage and Quickset. Yes, we still need those oddball keys, but they're not going to put that on the same priority tier as your common ones. I guess that's kind of what I'm taking away from what you've said.
Yes, and I think on the distributor side, so a lot of us have kind of a network behind the scenes that we've always been willing to, maybe either at cost or just a little over, we sell key blanks to each other, right? Let's say I have then 1646 keys, and the manufacturers are out, and behind the scenes they're like, hey, can I get 5,000 of those? And it's like, hey, sure, no problem, and vice versa. That kind of stuff happens quite often. However, over the past couple of years, everyone's like, I'm sorry, I can't do it. Like, I need to hold on to this stock because the lead times we're getting quoted is like 6 to 8 months for this key to get back in. Right. And so you start to get these where before it was really kind of fluid behind the scenes. And now it's like, hey, if you want 100 or 150 of them, like, sure, we'll help you get out of a pinch. But after that, we can't do it.
Yeah. And like the biggest issue we've had is we were buying direct from Jet, and now Jet is long gone, and they've pretty much, that supply is just gone. Whatever they had that was in New York, nobody's been able to, either they sent it all to Italy, can't get a straight answer from anybody at Keyline. There's stuff we would love to purchase if it was still available. We have car keys that we can't get the chips for anymore. A lot of their nickel silver stuff that is long gone that we really liked, but we were able to buy in bulk and it was a better price. Now, you're dependent on pretty much Ilco is the only one. And there's also a lot of quality control issues on the blanks that we do get. I've got a couple hundred KW1s that are useless out of 1,000, let's say. It's really not worth sending them back. But when you do get them, they're crap, and it's very frustrating because it didn't always seem to be like that. I don't know if they're just rushing to get stuff through the supply chain, and then you end up, they're not taking the time to check them, or what it is. Bad chip keys too, not as much, but I'm having to check every KW1 as I put out in the box of 250, and there might be 10 or 20 bad in each 250 pack.
Yeah,
that's frustrating.
I would blame automation for that. The manufacturers over the past years have really upped their game in automation. It's the only really thing they can do to keep prices low. And I think some of the consequences of that are kind of what you're talking about. We find the same thing. So we actually have, we'll get keys that are like stamped backwards or not milled or whatever. And we set those aside per manufacturer. And when we get about a half a box, like a 1,000 key, like piece box, when we get about halfway filled up, I send it back to the manufacturer and ask for a credit, and they think I'm nuts, but I'm like, it makes no sense to take that key that we paid for and just throw it away at the volume. Right. And so, we'll send those, we'll send them in, and we have to kind of nag them for months to get a credit for it. Cause they're like, you literally send us a mixed box full of messed up keys. It's like, yeah, but I mean, to us, that's probably, $400 or $500. And I don't know why we'd throw that away.
Right. And it's not necessarily worth it for us to send them back to our distributor to then send them back, at least, not 5 or 10, but when you keep, when it does add up, and we can scrap them, and we usually do end up scrapping them, but you can't.
I usually wind up sending all of my moss milled keys to Jeff.
Yeah, well, it used to be like, oh, hey, that's cool. We have now it's like, it used to be like, finding the prize in the box of Cracker Jacks. Now it's kind of annoying.
I actually found some misformed, miscut master pins for like actual lab pins where I had two 060 wafers, master pins, and they were stuck together but staggered. And
yeah. Well, that happens all the time with the little ones from Master Lock. I just cut them apart with my little wire cutters and go about my day. But yeah, that is not not as big of a problem as, when you need 50 keys and you don't have,
Yeah, I mean, so Jeff, to answer a couple of your other points, yeah. So when Jet kind of essentially went out of business per se, whatever weirdness was behind the whole keyline thing, but a couple things happened, right? One, Mark now, who used to run Jet, is over at ILCO.
right.
And so they have been working at bringing some of those unique Jet keys back into the fold. So I would definitely say if there's some that you're looking for, I'd reach out to Mark over at ILCO now and express interest.
That's interesting that he went to the competitor, not to the company that he sold to.
I always have a feeling that sometimes, like when mergers and acquisitions happen and all that other stuff, a lot of times it's a lot more of what happens outside of what they say, right?
Yeah.
But another interesting part that happened for us is, so through Arrow, we used to always buy our B15 and Y151 keys for the tryout sets, right? For the old GM 6-cut and old Chrysler. And when that happened to Jet, all of a sudden, like two of our biggest sellers, well, we couldn't sell them anymore, which was terrible.
Right.
And so I ended up reaching out and had JMA start making those keys for us. Mm-hmm. And so it was interesting kind of going through that process. And they actually, and I mean, any distributor can buy them now. I mean, they're in their catalog, but they made their part numbers CLK-1 and CLK-2, which I thought was kind of funny. But going through that process with them was interesting on their perspective. Okay, how many pieces are you going to buy at a time? How many per annual? And me really trying to get them to be like, hey, like this isn't like we might buy 30 or so thousand B15 keys a year, but I know the value is lower to you, but to us, it's very important. And I think that's a common problem we kind of get in this industry, is that it might be more of an oddball key, but to us in our business or wherever you're at, that key is really important for your community to have available.
Sure.
And so kind of, it's almost like, hey, we'll go easy on the price. Like, I mean, I'm not going to try to get you down too much on the price of the key. I just really need to make sure that it's available, right?
Absolutely. And we had an issue before I was at Aloha. We were told, oh, it's going to be like 2 months for your Peaks blanks. And then when I got back, we got Peaks blanks. And then our next order, the blanks had all the wrong coining on them. So we were cutting keys with somebody, they're like, well, we don't have them. Cut what you have, and then we'll send you out the correct one. So we had a run of maybe 100 Peaks keys with a different number on them.
Yikes. Yeah.
And that was nothing we could do about it, and that obviously is very frustrating because you wait so long to get it and then it's wrong.
We just got a shipment of, we had ordered, what was it, like SC1 or KW1, do not dupe blanks. And you would think when you order, and I'm not sure who the manufacturer was or which distributor we got them through, but you would think that when you get a D&D blank, that it would have the words do not duplicate on there. No, we just got straight neuter bows. And so we are like, whenever we have any downtime at all in the shop, we have a handful of these Knitterbow SC1 or KW1, whatever the hell they are, and we stick them in the engraver, hit start engraving, and it does do not duplicate. Think we're actually going to go to like putting our logo on there because we've got room to do that. And Jeff, yes, this week I will make you your "My name is Jeff" custom key.
You're the man.
But to kind of wrap it up, does PJ, do you see sort of any light at the end of the tunnel? I mean, we're coming out of strange times, but have you seen or heard anything that would give you the indication that we're on the path to normalcy again?
Yes, actually. So we have our POs being fulfilled at a pace that is the best since before, early 2020. And I think it's starting to come back. And I talked to both manufacturers on a weekly, sometimes daily basis, and they're pretty optimistic that things are somehow, their supply is getting back to normal. They're fulfilling a lot of backlogs. I think our oldest back order that we have right now on a key is February 2022, I think. So only about a year old, which may sound terrible, but it's actually pretty good for some of those more oddball type of keys.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff that we've ordered, for not key blanks, but some hardware that's been back ordered for so long, and then stuff came in and we forgot who it was for. We might have sold it to somebody else, and they're like, "Hey, where's our stuff?" And then so then we ended up having to reorder it, which was not necessarily wasn't the manufacturer's fault. It was a paperwork issue, but took so long to get the parts. They forgot what they needed them for almost. He's like, "Okay, order 15 of everything, and then just to have it." So it's definitely a problem, and I know it's better. We had issues where like we couldn't get continuous hinges, and we had to go to like a third level manufacturer that the rep somebody knew about. It was some imported, and they worked, but it's like we haven't bought them again because we can get select hinges again, but we couldn't get select, we couldn't get Roton, so we had to go to like dig to the depths of the earth to get anything. And I think it worked out, but not great.
I would like to just jump in something here right before PJ wraps this block up. It was last year, almost a year ago, and I needed a dogging assembly for a CR Lawrence Jackson exit device. And on the CRL website, they said expected availability was going to be like November. And this was in July of last year. And one of our NSPs that we've done work for, their locksmith shop, and I was doing a job for them elsewhere not involving that exit device, and I said, "Hey, by the way, can you look and see if you have this part in your stock?" And they did. He got back to me and said, "Yes, we do have it." Granted, they sold it to us at like $5 off of MSRP, so I wasn't real happy about that, but I got the part I needed. And so, Jeff, that kind of ties back to your block, but also, PJ, to your point, I'm not seeing that advanced lead time on other parts other than key blanks.
Yeah. And, so I guess the kind of last point I'll make here is that most of the key blank manufacturers, they put pretty strict expectations out of distributors, like volume wise, and all of the pricing is based on that commitment. And if you don't make the commitment, I mean, you're going to get punished by your pricing. And it's a pretty in the back end of the world, it's it's pretty dramatic as far as that goes. I mean, it's always being held against you. In this last year, they were giving hall passes. You know, they're like, hey, for the last 2 years, they said, hey, here's a hall pass. We know, like, if we look at what is on order compared to what is shipped, everything's fine. But that has changed for this year. So 2023, they're like, hey, you know, we're back on. We don't expect big problems, and we expect us to hit our numbers. So to me, that's the biggest indication that we're getting back to normal, is they're really going to put our feet back to the fire with it. So as I was saying, right, brass is made out of all sorts of, you know, of zinc and copper, which is found in a lot of plumbing and a lot of other things. And so I was very curious if another material was going to come out and be made, but to use for keys did not happen. So all I can leave you is with this. Next time you go into a bathroom to pee, just remember that might be the reason why you don't have your blank key. But up next on the Three Tumblers, Tyler wants to know, at what point do bulk discounts start getting passed down the line? But first, listen to some free music Tim found on the internet.
Well, I don't know how often I'll have the ear of a distributor, so I'm just going to use this selfishly to ask some of my own personal questions. PJ, we get about 95% of what we buy through distribution from one distributor. The other 5% is because they don't carry a very popular brand, a very old brand. So I guess my question is, what determines what brands your company carries? What goes on as far as circumstances, and, to borrow Jeff's favorite word, nuances, to determine what you offer to your customers?
You know, that's a great question, and I'll really just give it to you here. So a few things go into it for us in particular. One is the competitive landscape, and I'll give you a brand that we don't sell, and I'll tell you why. All right. And I think it'll kind of make my point for me, which is alarm lock. Okay. So when you look at what's available just on the internet, and you can, you know, obviously include Amazon in there, and then you look at what the profit margins are to sell that, is what you realized is that, like, you're literally going to, on a good day, make 12% on an alarm lock item. And so is it worth the capital investment, the warehousing investment, and just the overall hassle of, you know, when an alarm lock or an item fails, now you have to go through all of that process. There's a lot of cost associated with that. We live in a world where if a lock breaks under warranty, you want a call tag from us, right? You don't want to have to pay for any shipping, nothing. You want a, you know, a la carte type of service. Well, when you have that short of margins, it does not pencil out very well. And so the question you have to ask is, do you want that added sales? Do you like that top line revenue that, you know, is sexy, that you can talk to people about, and you sell X amount of millions of alarm lock? Or do you care more about the profit, right? Are you, is your company actually making money doing that? In this case, it just was not worth it for us to stock and sell alarm lock, because the, you know, if it's 12% and you're selling and you're doing a credit card fee on top of that, right? Taking out a couple percentage there. Think about it. You do a $100,000 sale or sales, and you're making $10,000 before you have all of your expenses associated with that, including shipping. So I hope that kind of tells the tale. I would guess, just off the top of my head, right? With this distributor you're talking about, which I have no idea who it is, doesn't really matter. If it's an older company and they don't want to sell it, there's usually two things going on. One is that manufacturers, when they get started years ago, so let's say this manufacturer had 3 or 4 distributors from 1950 to 1980. No one coming onto the planet today, okay, is going to be able to get the discounts that those companies get. There's no way around it at all. And if you go back and you kind of look at newer brands, or maybe brands that have been around for 20 years, and they have maybe 1 or 2 distributors take a chance on them, and now everybody has them, you'll find that no one sells them for a better price than those first couple distributors, because they just get the deepest discounts.
I think knowing what I know, without going to name names, I think you're 100% right. And you kind of hit on my third point, but the second point I'll make before that, bulk discounts. We get it direct, we get it through distributors sometimes. What goes into that as far as a numbers game? Is it discretionary? Is there a set dollar amount? What goes into, say, a customer comes to you, has a larger than normal order and says, can you work with me on the price? Can you give me a better price? How do you determine to give a bulk discount?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And of course, there's a lot of nuance to it, but I think I can try to answer it as clear as possible. Well, I mean, first of all, like, we will match or beat any price as long as we still make money. So as long as the line is green at the end, we will match it, so to speak. Although we try not to do that. No one wants to really process a sale for free. But where the bulk discounts come in, all right, and it's a multifaceted, like I said, it's kind of nuanced, but a couple things. If it's a manufacturer that gives us year-end rebates, which is really popular in our industry, pretty much every manufacturer has a rebate system. And so if we know, it's like, hey, this is one of the manufacturers that we can get there's a juicy rebate on the other end of the stick here, we'll be willing to negotiate with that because we know that it's going to help us hit our numbers. And in turn, we're going to get some of that money on the back end. So that's a big thing. I think where the divide is that, I don't know, maybe a little harder to talk about, is sometimes what a bulk discount is to someone in the trade is different than what a distributor might view as a bulk discount. For example, if someone is calling up and they want, let's say, 2,000 KW1s or SC1s, that might be a huge, from their perspective and their business and where they're at, that might be a big order for them. And they're really wanting to, shave some points on. But from a distributor end, it's like, well, hey, we're selling, 10,000 SC1s a day. So it doesn't really do anything. And then on top of it is, how expensive is it to get delivered to you? All right. And I'll tackle this 2 ways. One is, if it's an item, let's say you want 20,000 or 30,000 SC1 keys. If we know it hits our free freight minimum, and we can direct ship it from the manufacturer to you, we're willing to give a better discount, right? Like, our warehouse staff doesn't have to touch it. We don't have to schedule shipping, put it on a pallet, and have all the shipping costs associated with it. However, if it's something in our warehouse, then we're not going to, we have to protect the margin on that as far as, shipping it that way. So those are kind of a few of the pieces that play in that puzzle.
Well, let me ask you one more question while I've got you. As Jeff hinted on in the first block, locksmiths have more sources available for hardware than ever before: eBay, Amazon, direct buys, distributors, all of that. Where do you see distributors? Where do you see sourcing going over the next 5-10 years? Does everybody still have a part? Is somebody going to make inroads on others?
Yeah, great question. And to answer this one, I mean, my opinion might be a little unpopular, and I can accept that. Over time, okay, is what we've seen is the erosion of the distribution network, okay? And we've seen it go, direct, I'm just going to call it direct to consumer, because it's easier to say DTC. But essentially is what happening. The question you have to ask is, why is there a distribution network set up? And most of the time that answer involves this. It's complex to ship to hundreds of thousands of customers compared to, let's say, 200. Another reason is a manufacturer, they might be really great at making something, but they're not really great at selling it and the marketing, and maybe they're not interested in that and they'd rather just outsource that, right? And that's where the whole distribution network comes in. However, as time has went on, and it's much easier to communicate with customers directly through, social media platforms, email, even that sort of thing, we're starting to see a shift there. And that's why you can essentially find everything everywhere by typing in a keyword. And so I think as time goes on, and we've kind of alluded to it in a few of the earlier points, and this is where maybe it's popular, but I'm okay with saying this. At some point, people right now, if you want to rekey your own locks or whatever it might be, put a new door lock in, you could do it yourself in the same way you could go down to Home Depot and fix your faucet if you so had the skills and the desire to do so. I think where we're heading is that the availability of products is not going to be very important in the industry compared to the tradesmen and the servicemen with the know-how and the knowledge and the expertise to handle it for customers. And so I guess to answer your question, over time, you're going to buy a lock. At the end of the day, you're going to buy a lock at a price, at the best price, essentially, that you could find. That also includes some sort of customer service or warranty work with that, right? Because you don't want to have to sell a lock and be, if it breaks or it's bad out of the box, you want to be able to get a new one without a massive headache and cost to you. And so I think that will continue to be more true. I think we'll see standard distribution, the legacy distributors. I think we'll see that business model continue to shift in a lot of ways. And my reasoning for that is, if you look at in the plumbing industry in particular, and you look at what has happened over the years with big box stores essentially carrying every part that they need. You even see them all the time going to a Home Depot to pick it up. You see the online sellers selling all those items, right? Really huge brands. And yeah, unfortunately, I think it's a little, I don't know, I'll stop there, but I think you get the point.
Jeff, Tim, any other questions while we've got the master?
I mean, it just seems like there's going to be more consolidation. I mean, oh, we're not for sale. We're not for sale. Actually, we just got bought, but once stuff is out there, it's out there. And to deny it is, there are certain suppliers that will sell to anybody with or without a pulse. And I think that sort of is just diluting the industry. If, there's no checks or anything, anybody can buy lock picks. I don't care if you want to rekey your own lock, but if you start using these things to break into stuff, and I'm not going to give you the tools to do my job. If somebody comes in, they want to buy a key extractor, no, we're not going to do that. If you want to try to super glue and get it out yourself and then call us to fix it, we're in business to make money. We're not in business to give away what we took the time to learn.
I think that's a good point. I think the advent of essentially Alibaba, right? AliExpress, those sort of things. Everything is available online for sale at all times. And when I was a kid working in my dad's lock shop, I would be at like Ace Hardware or something with him. And, you see there's like 2 or 3 people sitting there waiting to get keys cut. And it always kind of ticked me off. I was like, hey, why aren't they, like, your shop is literally like not even a minute drive from here. Why are they here? And he said something when I was a kid, it stuck with me this whole time. And he said that, he's like, hey, there are people that are going to go to Ace Hardware to get a key cut. And then there's people that are going to go to a locksmith. We service the people who go to locksmiths. And I don't know, it's always kind of stuck with me. And I think that as each local company carves out its own niche, and gives people reasons to do business with them, like any other business. Like I think like that's kind of where we're headed. But yeah, you're right. I mean, people walk in to my dad's shops all the time with picks, and they want to buy it. Hey, there's some cool locks I can practice on. And it's like, no. And they're like, well, I can go buy it on the internet. And they're like, okay, like, why are you here then? Right. And I think it makes sense. Like people who know the trade, like, I mean, we should be to some degree protective of it. But I think is what really happens in today's day and age. You can go on the internet and learn anything, right? And to deny that exists just isn't helpful. But I think what is helpful, and I'll give you a real dumb example, is my wife's car. Okay, it had her old car had a sunroof and had a leak on it. Okay, and I didn't know this. That was happening. She goes to the car wash a lot. And the leak was running down the sides and was literally dumping water on her amp in the vehicle, like her factory amp, causing all sorts of crazy problems. Well, when this started happening, I looked it up on the internet, figured out what it was, bought a new amp, watched some YouTube videos, bought the items to get in there and replace it and get it all. I get in underneath her vehicle and I realize as I start to do this, that like, this is way more difficult than I was expecting. And I'm like, I think I can get it out, but I don't think I can get it back in. And so I just stopped, called a mechanic and said, hey, this is what I got. Is there any way, I already bought this stuff. Would you be willing to do it? And they said, sure, but obviously no warranty on any of the items. If you have to buy them from me, if you want the warranty. And I was like, well, hey, I already got it. I don't plan to keep the car very, very much longer. And so we took it to him and he got it done. And I think that is like O'Reilly's hasn't put car mechanics out of business, right? You still go, there's still tons of work out there. And I think the same thing over time will be true for our industry. That, locks, pin tumbler locks are not complicated at all. And over time, as the understanding continues to get greater and greater, those type of locks are, I mean, everyone's going to be able to kind of service those, I think, unfortunately, I guess. But
I'd like to say a couple things. PJ, to a few points that you made, we have an Ace Hardware less than a block down the street from our shop. And it's actually gotten to the point where they refer people to us for certain keys. The other thing is, to kind of what Jeff was saying, I had a guy ask me the other day if we sold airbags to open up car doors. I told him we sold them at twice the MSRP and also had to require that you took 8 hours of training at our training rate, which is $125 an hour. So, that kind of discouraged it. On the other hand, I started out as a lock sporter and learned how to pick and disassemble and reassemble lock cylinders from the internet. And so there's a very healthy balance between the industry and hobbyism. But I wanted to go back to Tyler's earlier point and your point, PJ. There is one brand, and I have no problem naming this brand on air. Any customer that I have that has MTech hardware, I tell the customer to contact MTech directly. Because if we buy MTech through our distributor, they don't stock MTech, because obviously MTech puts all their shit together custom for whatever job. I mean, they package it, wrap it up all nice and neat. It is a very, very pretty setup whenever it arrives. But their warranty is good only for the end consumer. And that's my biggest selling point on that. For one, it takes me out of the picture trying to match up hardware patterns, trim styles, finishes, et cetera, and I can put that all on the customer. So if they get something that's wrong, then that's between the customer and MTech. I'm not wasting my time going from the customer to MTech, or if I'm getting it through a distributor, I'm not having to go from the customer to me to my distributor rep. They go to MTech, they come back to me, I go back to my customer. No, let's cut out all of the middlemen and let the customer and the manufacturer both communicate directly. And I'm okay with that with MTech, because once you get that box of hardware from MTech, and the average customer might think that they can put it on, they're going to open that up and they're going to close it right back and say, nope, hey, Tim, come out here. I need you to install this on my door, please. And that's all I've got to say about that.
Well, yeah, yesterday we got a call from a contractor through the place that we buy wood doors from, that had some Baldwin stuff, and they ordered parts, or Baldwin sent him the parts for free, but he didn't know how to repair the lock. Sure, we'll go out and take care of it for you. We'll bill you, you bill your customer, do whatever you want. But, the car key thing, and I had one yesterday that didn't work, and the guy, I explained it 3 times, he signed the form, and he happily paid, even though it didn't work. That's the risk that you take. And that was a half hour of our time that we, that we deserve to get paid for. What a Smart Pro costs, what, tokens and time. And I did get him a price on getting an additional one that I could guarantee that would work. And if it didn't work, he wouldn't be out anything, but he wasn't interested. So there's a lot of things, I circle back to that locksport to locksmithing thing, and the people that, I like to pick locks, so I want to be a locksmith. There's so many things that you learn that you don't know once you're doing it,
Picking locks is less than 0.5% of what we do as locksmiths.
Yep. And even as just, the young kid in the shop, there's so many other things that you have to know, even though I'm not the one ordering the parts in most cases. There are a lot of things to know.
I don't know what you're talking about. 99% of our profit comes from picking locks. Up next, in the fourth half of our show, Tim is going to talk about electronic locks and what a pain in the ass can be to get them in this day and time.
Why does everyone these days want beeps, buttons, apps, notifications, and all kinds of other distractions? Duh. Makes life more convenient, keeps people accountable, and probably saves some money in the long run. But how hard is it to get these parts? And when you can't get them, are there any alternatives? When I started at the shop that I work for now, almost 2 years ago, we sold on average about 5 Schlage encodes per week. Now that might be an over-the-counter sale. That might be a sale plus the trip and installation and setup. But we sold at least 5 a week on average. And then towards the end of 2021, all of a sudden, none of the distributors had them. We'd put in an order and they said, yeah, you've got an 18-week lead time, or expected in stock March of 2022. And then March of 2022 came around and we still didn't have them. We had to look for alternatives to those. And the one thing that we found that I actually was able to build on, because I have them, are the Schlage Sense, the BE 479s. And with the plug-in Wi-Fi bridge, you can convert those and basically make an encode out of that system. Also, if you have Apple HomeKit, because everybody who has Apple, an iPhone, a Mac, an iPad, in general, most people have an old iPad that they don't use anymore. What a lot of people didn't know, including our Allegiant reps, is that you can use the iPad as an Apple HomeKit hub. Therefore, without having to sell the little plug-in bridge, you can give outside access for the Schlage Sense. That was sort of an adapt and overcome, I guess, fix that we were able to come up with. And until we were able to get encodes stocked again later last year, 2022, that was pretty much what we sold people. Was if they were an Apple person, an Apple user, we would sell them the Sense and say, hey, you can either buy a bridge from us or you can use an old iPad. We did probably equal numbers of both. Now that we can get the encodes back, we're selling more of those. But the thing is that more and more people, we found, residential and commercial both, want an electronic deadbolt. I know there's been the chip shortage for the past few years, but we're starting to get back on normal. Jeff, in your shop, what have you seen as far as electronic residential hardware and the ability to get it and the demand for it?
Well, our demand is pretty low, but the one time when I was looking for them and the guy, we looked, nobody had them in stock and the lead time was months, and he found it online at Lowe's and we installed it for him. Some of that stuff, it's just like you said with the MTech, it's not worth trying to compete when you can't get it any quicker. You typically can't get it much cheaper. Like I said, we stocked the standalone, the basic FE and BE stuff, which there was never really a shortage on. It just always seems like whatever one we have in stock, the customer wants a different color, but that's easy. Never really had too much issue getting trilogies, which we always have a couple in stock. It really hasn't been a major issue with the bread and butter stuff. Like some of the weirder things, again, we just don't sell a lot of them, but the one time I did need it, I couldn't get it. So,
and we actually got it in stock, 2 months later when I sent you that picture?
I think so.
Yeah. The chrome finish encode.
Yeah.
I've got 6 of them. If anybody out there needs them, chrome encodes. PJ, what, as far as electronic stuff, I mean, we see a lot of demand for it in our area, both residential and commercial. I don't know exactly how much you guys do in electronic hardware, but what is sort of the backstory to being able to get electronic hardware, whether it's Kwikset or Schlage or whatever, even if it's just an off-brand, was kind of going on? Why kind of is it still hard to get some of that stuff?
Yeah, Tim, I first want to say, the story that you told at the beginning of this is, in my opinion, the reason why there will always be security professionals out there, no matter what, right? Like you said, the Legion rep didn't even know that you could do this. And it's, to me, the beauty of the people who work with locks and keys is their ability to listen. Your livelihood depends on you being able to do this work. And so instead of just sitting on the sidelines and pouting that you can't get the lock, you figure out a way to make it happen. And I just want to say, I absolutely love that story. Thanks for sharing that. It sincerely gets me pumped up.
We have a saying on this show: we had to locksmith the shit out of it.
And
yes,
the one thing that I sort of begrudging, because locks are a passion that became my career, is, there are some people that last month they were selling copy paper and now they're selling locks. Not every rep. Most of the reps are pretty good and they tend to move around within their various companies or rep firms. There are some people that don't really know what they're selling, and it's our job to figure that kind of stuff out. And if you can prove somebody wrong, that does feel good.
I actually got my first Schlage Sense that's on my house from our Legion rep. He had taken it off of his own house for an encode. But to get back, kind of what I was wondering, PJ, is, what's it looking like for electronic hardware from here on out? Is it something that's going to be getting easier, or are we going to need to keep trying to find alternatives and workarounds and locksmithing the hell out of something?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I do live up here in Idaho, and so I'm not quite sure. I'm gonna try to say as politically correct as I can. All right, but so I mean, a couple things. One is what 2 years ago, 2021 ish, we transitioned to selling Town Steel electronic locks. And one of the big reasons for that, okay, is that they're assembled here, actually down in California. And so, and the Town Steel has been is a massive for the past 3 decades, a OEM electronic lock supplier. Now, due to the NDAs attached, we can't name names, but they're really good at supplying electronic locks, and they essentially created their own brand out of what they've been supplying to the OEM market for years and years. And so the fact that they were actually available in 2021 in essentially any quantity is what really had me take a hard look at them and then start selling them, is just due to the availability. Essentially any lock within a week will ship. They assemble them as they get ordered. So I really liked that. And I really felt that was a good solution. It was like, they know how to make locks, especially if I named the locks that they make, you'd be like, yeah, these guys know how to make locks. And then 2, availability in a time where there was not availability. And it was really a great move. We have sold an absolute crazy amount of them due to it, and it's been good there. So that's kind of how we pivoted through that. But to the main point there is that the main reason the supply issues have happened, from my understanding and information, due to these locks, to the electronic locks, is the shutdowns overseas, right? In like China, right? And so when no factory is making anything for months and months and months and months, it just creates a backlog that is ugly. Now, as what we've seen since then is manufacturers start moving some of their operations, right? Places locks are being made right now by the manufacturers are Korea, Vietnam, and they're moving to some other areas to get some parts or the whole locks. And if you pay really close attention right now through the manufacturers that you're even buying from, whoever they might be, you'll start to see little indications of the same lock being made in 2 different regions of the world. And they're actually different prices for whatever reason. And so I think is what we'll see. Like short term, I think it's going to continually kind of be a problem. But long term, manufacturers, right, they're not making money if they're not selling everybody locks. And so they've been incentivized to figure out alternative countries and or solutions to bring these locks to market. And I think with, the Koreas and the Vietnams and other places, we're going to see those supply issues not only go away, I think, but in the future, they've kind of, made their own supply chain more robust. So these problems, hopefully don't happen again, at least to the same magnitude.
That's actually a really, really great segue into my next point, because we sell in our shop, we sell and install a lot of Salto access control. And I know Jeff is kind of rolling his eyes behind his glasses at me because I say Salto all the time, but I'm not a paid endorser of Salto. But anyway, we do. Their headquarters is in Spain, and something that we needed for a job recently, we ordered it and it said shipping from Spain, and we got the parts in less than 6 days. So that's really, really cool because they're seeing that, we're selling this product. We need it. Yes, Salto has headquarters in Atlanta, but most of their stuff is manufactured in Spain. So the commercial electronic products, Tyler, I know that you don't directly sell commercial electronic cylinders. I know you don't like dealing with those, but maybe you've heard from other people who do sell those. What are they encountering? like the Medico XT or something similar to that? Are they having, distribution backlogs?
Yeah, to the tune of 6 to 8 months. So that's what I've heard from Medico, and not just that, but also Fire King products. So that's all I know. That's all I can say.
Well, I mean, commercial electronics is kind of like almost 50% of what we do because of access control. Jeff,
Now, now, hold on. I'm only talking about hybrid cylinders here. I'm not talking about anything beyond that.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was referring to when I was asking you, is the hybrid electromechanical cylinders.
What were you saying about Fire King?
Yeah, that's what I hear now. I got somebody trying to buy Fire King locks from me, thinking I could get it any faster than they could, but apparently we're all on a backlog as far as Fire King lead time.
Oh, say, because they're charging $150 for 2 keys now, which is absurd. It used to be $35 for 2 keys. You can buy a new lock with 2 keys cheaper than you can buy. Yeah, Tim, that's the exact face we made, and there were a few swear words involved. So,
damn.
Yeah.
Bet you can get those keys faster than the lock, though.
Well, I don't know. No, we had it with less than a week. And I know the person you're talking about probably because he was trying to get you to make keys or whatever.
Yeah.
And also, you have a Rule A violation behind you.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
My keys are in the door. Sorry about that, fellas.
At least we only do audio. Jeff, I mean, we don't sell a lot of alarm lock stuff. Like we do if it's a direct swap out, but we don't do a whole lot of fresh install of it. And I think your shop probably does a lot more alarm lock stuff. Have you seen anything like with alarm lock or Kaba? Have you seen any significant change in lead time over the past couple of years or today or anything? Are things faster, slower, about the same?
No, about the same.
Well, that was a quick answer.
I mean, again, we're not buying direct or anything. If we need a trilogy, we order a couple of them. Never had not seen an issue in that I can remember. We don't sell the Kaba electronic stuff, and we sell very few of the push button ones. So, yeah, no issues with trilogies. That nothing that comes to mind.
Gotcha. Yeah, we haven't seen anything. As far as that, PJ, the shit. What was the brand? The Iron Mountain.
What?
Town Steel.
Iron Mountain.
Town Steel.
Town Steel. That's it. Okay, let me start back. I'll edit all that out.
That actually isn't a bad idea. Iron Mountain, Steel Town.
Okay. PJ, the Town Steel, I've actually never laid my hands on it, on any one of their products. I know I've read some of their stuff, like some of their spec sheets, but I've never laid my hands on it. Would really, if you could set me up with somebody from there or whatever for our shop, I'd love to see a demo of something. But are they pretty, like, compared to traditional like Schlage or Kaba or Alarm Lock, are they faster in fulfillment to distributors, or are they about the same?
Yeah, so I mean, they essentially build to order. And so I mean, our typical lead time on a stock PO is right about a week. And so, like if you had like a big job or you had something going on, or you just needed something kind of rare or random, and we would put like a drop ship PO in. It's usually around a week or maybe a little longer for them to send it out. So it's pretty good. By the way, I love that. What did you say, Iron Mountain or something like that? I like it.
I think I was thinking of Intermountain, which is a supplier, but yeah, I am famous for making up names. That's why I have to wear my name on a name tag. All right, I'm done now. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some spare parts that we actually did get in our supply chains this week.
Well, I think we've all got at least one spare screw left over this week, so let's hear about them. Tim, what's your spare part?
All right, so at the Houston Zoo, Mr. Pickles, who is a 90-year-old radiated tortoise and the oldest animal at the Houston Zoo, welcomed, along with his 53-year-old junior partner, Mrs. Pickles, welcomed 3 hatchlings that could live for up to 150 years if well taken care of. The critically endangered radiated tortoise species is native to Madagascar and rarely ever produce offspring. I guess they're too lazy or too slow. Nobody can accuse Mr. Pickles of being a quick draw, I suppose. But they came as a surprise, and all the folks at the Houston Zoo are just ecstatic for Mr. and Mrs. Pickles, and I wish them well. You know, it's never too late.
Tyler?
Jeff, spell ICUP.
I'm not 5. I know that one.
Just do it.
ICUP.
You degenerate. All right, I'm done.
PJ?
You know, I'm really just looking forward to a soda this afternoon.
In Ohio, we call it pop, but I'll let it pass. My spare part is that in Virginia, 2 inmates escaped prison using a spoon and a toothbrush. They got out, managed to get 7 miles away to an IHOP where they had dinner/breakfast after shortly being picked up and transported back to the jail. So sounds kind of like Escape from Alcatraz.
That was almost my spare part.
Well, you told me to use it, so I did. And I don't think I've ever heard your voice that high. That's going to have to be another part of the blooper reel. Well, I think that's it for today. We've certainly gone off on a few tangents. And I have to apologize since I've been begging everybody to email the wrong address. The correct address is the3tumblerspod@gmail.com, not whatever else I've been saying. So you guys are forgiven for not emailing your $20 bills to us thus far, but I'll be watching for them here on out. Those responsible for the error, IT Director, Cybernet, and Amber Sand, have been sacked from the staff by Oscar LaVista. Submit your staff nominations to the3tumblerspod@gmail.com today. Our executive producer is Tyler J. Thomas. Writer and editor is Tim Coleman. I am your technical producer, Jeff Moss. Our guest host is PJ Slauson. Our tool specialist intern is Hannah Toomey. Our press secretary is Howie Vasive. Tim's personal trainer is Jim Shorts. And our chief legal counsel is Hugh Lewis Dewey of Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, otherwise known to late-night Uber drivers as Huey Louie Dewey.
I just say thank you, PJ.
Thanks for listening.
Happy be here.
#LockBoss. This has been a Three Tumblers production, Season 1. Copyright 2023, all rights reserved. Find this episode and others wherever you get your podcasts.